Hey everyone, Eric Watson here for the Twitter Player Games, writer, boards, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my behind-the-scenes namely live stream crafting the Golden Vault, which I build, right, and prepare for our next session of Keys from the Golden Vault. If you are playing characters Shari, Elowin, Stacey, Tavine, or Vero, the stream is not meant for you. We'll be full of spoilers, but the rest of you are always welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20, and for streaming, I use OBS Studio. Hopefully it's not confusing that I keep changing the subtitles of these crafting streams. I think it's hopefully a little better organizational than just having it be the date. And hopefully it alerts people to letting know what I'm going to be at least planning on talking about, because we kind of interrupted our last preparation of the next mission by throwing this whole other adventure at the party with the Troll Skull Manor. I think I'm fully prepped for that adventure. If you still want to talk about it, then let me know. Obviously, there's discussions on Discord we can do as well. But I figured since I think I'm pretty well caught up on that one, then we can kind of return to talking about Stygian Gambit, back to your regular scheduled programming. And we can just try to get ahead of that, basically, and put more thought process into this one. Hell yeah, the Iron Skillet. Man, I'm sad that's like the last... I think it's supposed to be the last time they're gonna play together. TCU and SMU is what the wife was telling me, that for whatever conference reasons or something, I guess that might be the last time. But yeah, TCU usually kicks their ass. It's very disappointing when SMU and most people aren't gonna care, but that's the it's the Fort Worth versus Dallas college teams, which is very big for the DFW Metroplex, and I always love that, being a alum and having lived much of my life in Fort Worth, that TCU continues to dominate Dallas and SMU. So I do love that. Even though TCU's current coach was the head coach at SMU, which that was very weird. Whenever you somebody goes to like a direct like rival or competitor, no matter if it's a coach or an athlete or whatever, that's so awkward. For fans it's awkward. I gotta imagine for players it's like a little awkward, but I guess some people can make it work. But yeah, go Frogs. So Stygian Gambit is a huge fucking map, by the way. It's the subdivided maps, but it is gigundo. I'm looking forward to the casino part of it, and I've been looking at different options to make the gambling part of it more interesting, and making sure I have some cool like mini games to go along. Cause I gotta imagine the players are gonna want to do that, and I really need to fill this place out with some nice kind of generic tokens I can slap in there, so it looks like the place is actually like lively and things. And I also like that it's kind of a themed restaurant, I guess. Like, what is the Rainforest Cafe or Hard Rock Cafe, or one of those where it's just everything is almost over the top, like decorative theming. In this case, it's all supposed to look like the abyss and like layers of hell and everything, with the fact that you like even appear going in on the little boat like you're on the river Styx or something, and you arrive and it's all very just cool theme. And I like the twist here that the owner did make a bargain with Mammon, I think is the name of like a devil of greed and avarice. And I think there's gotta be a clever way I can double down on that and make that kind of an interesting aspect, but still keep it a heist, I guess. So the quest wouldn't be necessarily to take him out. And I also trying to figure out like how much does the Golden Vault know versus what their mission is. In this case, the mission feels so the as written. You get the mission from the owner's former partner. I don't know if it's a romantic partner, but just a business partner, I guess. They were both like gamblers, and they had a bunch of winnings, and then he left her behind or just took all the money, and then later opened this casino, and now she's pissed off and feels like she is owed, half the money or half the casino. But instead of taking him out or wanting the deed or anything, she wants two things. She wants to steal her half of the money, which actually accounts to like several thousand gold pieces from the vault, which is like I mean, that's for real if you want to try to steal from the casino's vault. And then she also wants to steal a statuette from the tournament that they're hosting here. And I'm not as clear on why that's the case. Let's see, is it under starting the adventure? Verity Kai is the quest giver. The directions from the Golden Vault, a mysterious invitation to discuss advantages, opportunities. So, okay, what is the Golden Vault? An ally of the Golden Vault is how they're wording Verity. Had her life savings stolen from her by a devious gambling partner. We found an opportunity to right this wrong. This quest, should you choose to undertake, requires you to infiltrate the Afterlife Casino and steal a statuette and a sum of money. Meet with Verity at the Blind Widow Tavern to learn more about details. Good luck, operatives. So it's a little more flimsy here that you're helping somebody who's just kind of another gambler, but apparently she's an ally of the Golden Vault. Obviously, we can skip all this part of the Blind Widow and just have Verity show up if we want to still use her. Afterlife Casino is a new Nine Hills themed attraction just outside town. The owner, Quentin Togglepocket, built it using prize money he stole from me, and I'd like you to give him hell. He's hosting a tournament there, and I want you to steal the Erinys statuette he plans to award as a prize. Just for funsies, it sounds like. Embarrassing him in front of the big names of the tournament. It just feels weird that the Golden Vault would, like, sign off on this, because they start off, like, a lot of the adventures are, like, more altruistic, and, like, you're really helping somebody, or you're helping right or wrong. This one feels like the most, like, you're just kind of helping somebody with petty revenge. I also want you to steal back the 5,000 gold pieces he stole from me. Bring the statuette and the gold here will all be waiting for you. God, if the players were slightly less scrupulous, they could just take that 5,000 gold and run, because good lord. She gives them another bag of holding, which is weird, because they got one for... I guess they're supposed to give the other bag of holding back to Dr. Daniel. But then she doesn't, like, give him the command word or something weird. So it's like, okay, how do you even use it then? I don't understand. So I'll just let him keep the bag of holding, I think, from the good doctor. They have just over 48 hours to steal the statuette as the tournament ends 2 nights from now, and the statuette will depart with the winner. And it does, thankfully, say that if the characters could try to take the statuette from the winner on their way out, which seems like the easiest thing to do, she specifically says she wants to harm Quentin and not the winner. Which does kind of make sense from the Golden Vault standpoint. It's like, well, this is the whole point of this, is to embarrass the guy. Although still, I think it'd be more interesting if instead of that, like the statuette was like hers or was like a magic item or something more valuable. To why there's to give them more motivation for getting the statuette at least. Like I get the money motivation, but I think I need to put something else with the statuette to make that better. We already talked about before about how I don't like the fact that the handout gives them all the information. I love these, don't get me wrong, I love these handouts, but the fact that it's just too much to give the party all at once. I feel like, you barely have to do any reconnaissance if you have this much information. Yeah, she paid a dwarf that worked for the construction company that built the casino. If the party wants to go with that kind of extra leg, which I don't think my party ever would, then maybe I can let them have that kind of map. But otherwise, I think we talked about how I want to actually edit this map and kind of take out anything that's beyond the blue doors, which is the employee-only door. So just kind of scrub, like, the fact that she doesn't know what this room is for, which is labeled laundry, and then basically nothing in here. I can scrub that all out and just replace it with this and just put a big question mark and be like, we don't know what's beyond the employee-only doors, because that kind of makes sense. Why the players themselves would have to do that kind of reconnaissance to look at it. They would know about the security mirrors, because those are pretty obvious and pretty visible. And then I think that she would know about the employee-only pass card doors, which is why she can't get past there. So that's my plan there. I still need to make those actual edits, but I think everything beyond the blue doors would just be a big question mark. And I would try to even scrub all this like individual rooms. Like you wouldn't even know what the room layouts are, hallways, or anything. So try and delete all this, use the same maybe coloring as this like brown stuff, and then put a big question mark there, because I don't like giving them all the information. Make them work for it, damn it. Plus, this is designed for level 2, and my players will be leveling up after the Troll Skull Manor. They'll be level 4. So we do need to keep that in mind, and things should have to be scaled up a little bit, although I was already impressed with the general layout and security features of this adventure. Kind of similar to the museum one, actually, where I'm like, yeah, these are pretty tough for low levels, which means for slightly higher levels, they'll be more average, I guess. The casino employs tieflings only, as, again, to keep in with that theme, which is interesting and would make disguising, I think, more challenging. Although, as we've seen so far, the only one who bothers to disguise themselves, really, is our wizard, who has a magical disguise. So that part isn't really matter, I guess, but could make the other ones more difficult. Or easier, I guess, if they know they just need to look like a tiefling, and then they'll fit right in a little bit easier. The security mirrors reflect onto twin mirrors in the security office. It doesn't actually say how they work here. It just says getting... I guess this is what she knows specifically. It does say the captured character is thinking of the holding cell, which is kind of nice. I mean, I could really go... I've thought about even going harder with the hell theme and making it like there's a real sinister undertone here where he's like trying to get people to spend all their money, and then if they're destitute, then he offers them one last offer, and then it's a contract where they have to sell their soul. And then if they, once they're done gambling after that, or whatever money they receive from that, then he's got theirs. Like I could really make it a sinister thing, although then it becomes a question of, does the Golden Vault know about that and want that to be part of the mission? And then is that still a heist where it's like, oh, we need you to take out Quentin? Like, that's not really a heist. That's an assassination. Or B, is it that the Golden Vault doesn't know about that and the party discovers that? And then it becomes an interesting twist, but it also leads to be like, okay, why did you send us in here and the Golden Vault didn't even know about this? Like, how far-reaching is your organization? So I have two minds of trying to include that little bit of it. I guess you could still make it a heist by making it that maybe there's a certain object that empowers Quentin or something to make him be able to make those kind of soul deals. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just doing too much into this and I just need to stick to what's written. But I feel like there's more I could do with the hell theme. Is that only in the planning the heist section? I'll read more about that. Disguises, might try to steal uniforms. You can do that in the laundry room, which again, they won't know what that room is necessarily. Non-tieflings will need disguise kits or appropriate magic. Employ pass cards is very similar to the way the museum works. You can lift them from the guards with a DC 15 sleight of hand check. I do appreciate that. Only if it fails by 5 or more does the employee actually notice the botched attempt. That's the only thing in the planning the heist section. You'd think there'd be something about learning about the security mirrors. Maybe it's in the actual Afterlife Casino section. 3 miles north of town. I don't know. I could probably put this beneath Waterdeep. Somewhere like beneath and like, I don't know. Where would you take... You go like underground. Yeah, I think it should be underground. And then there's like a river that eventually feeds into the ocean, but it's a river that leads into underground into this whole like cavernous place. So I'll change that little bit of it to make it more local to Waterdeep. There's a farrier. Takes them across, casino stations, ceilings, doors, 50 feet high with stalactites. It's a giant underground cavern. Jeez. The doors, arcane lock spells have been cast on the doors leading to employee-only areas. The vault hallway and the vault itself. They are obvious to visitors that they are locked that way. Casino personnel use pass cards to bypass the arcane lock spells on the doors. They can be forced open with a DC 25 athletics check. Jeez, those are reinforced ass doors. So that's challenge number 1 the parties have to face, is getting into the employee-only areas. Involve either forcing a guard to do it, sneaking in when a guard walks through it, or stealing a guard's pass, or somehow breaking down the door. A few macros of casino games. Interesting. As long as they have a good amount of player interactivity, because that's what I'm kind of trying to balance around, is like trying to have my players have fun with the games while realizing that there may be a case where the party is split up and only some of them are actually playing the game. So I want it to be like, so I guess I'm trying to find that sweet spot where they're not too involved. I want them to be a little more involved than what's written in the book, because I think the book's games are basically just like rolling dice and seeing what happens. And that seems kind of lame. Casino is lit by dancing light spells that create flames of a hellish hue. That's pretty cool. It's all very well lit. Sounds like cowboy country music. Why? That's odd. Is that part of the hell theme, maybe? It's like the worst music. Security guards. 5 security guards, which use the thug stat block, which in 2024 is the tough stat block, which I believe is functionally similar. Although I don't think they actually have multi-attack, so I did replace it with the new tough ones here. They do not have multi-attack. Yeah, so I think they actually got nerfed somewhat. Which thugs were a little bit too crazy. Pack tactics, mace, which I could leave that as a mace. It'd be like a power club, and then they are armed with heavy crossbows. Security mirrors. Throughout the casino are mirrors which are anchored to the wall at a downward angle 12 feet off the floor. Detect a magic spell, reveals an aura of divination magic. They can be destroyed. They have stats. In addition to functioning as a normal mirror, each security mirror acts as a magical scrying device. Literally a fantasy version of a security camera, which is, something I was complaining about in D&D is that you don't get a lot of these cool security measures that you do in modern heist stuff or sci-fi stuff. And I'm like, oh wait, this one literally has security cameras. So that's pretty clever. Allow guards in the security office to see through it like a window. You can dispel magic to suppress the scrying property for 10 minutes. But man, it doesn't say how far you can see, which that's going to come up in this adventure. Acts as a magical scrying device. Is scrying like a thing? Can I search scry? I'm trying to figure out like how far this can see, because that is going to come up with the security system. All right, scrying is a level 5 spell. You can see and hear a creature you choose. Oh, that's not going to work. On the same plane of existence as you, but that's not. Okay, so that doesn't really work. It's got to be like a cone. 12 feet off the floor. Each security mirror acts as a magical scrying device, allowing guard security. I guess maybe the security office talks about that. It's in like A16. It does not. It even says, I'm reading at the book now, each mirror on the wall corresponds to a security mirror elsewhere in the casino, and whatever happened within line of sight of the mirrors is displayed here. But what is line of sight of the mirrors? I feel like that is missing information here. Yeah, we could. I was gonna say if there was an equivalent spell, I think it is called Arcane Eye. I should not search for arcane. That's gonna be too many things. Oh wait, there it is. Because I need to figure that ruling out, because that's one of the first questions they're gonna ask. So Arcane Eye is a level 4 spell that gives you 30 feet. You mentally receive visual information from the eye, which can see in every direction as a dark vision with a range of 30 feet. So we could go with 30 feet for the mirrors, although with the size of this map, 30 feet is actually not as big as we're hoping. Because this map is about twice as big as normal. So if we look at a cone, let's see what a 30-foot... Yeah, look at that. A 30-foot out of this mirror, it doesn't even cover the entire first table that's nearby. So that's not great. If we double it, we still only cover half the area. If we double it to 60 feet vision, man, I could even widen it. Yeah, 60 feet wouldn't even cover the whole area. Let's see if there's other mirror examples. All right, so there's ones in the bottom. Okay, 60 feet does cover the lower right. And there is another mirror here. Okay. So with 60, you're still not covering these furthest tables. In room A4, I guess this is, A3. Let's see. I'm already saying 30 feet is not going to work at all. 60 feet would cover the lounge here. 60 feet would cover 70% of the bar. Let's see. 60 feet covers most of the tournament area. It does just barely include that table, so I think 60 feet would cover that one. And this one's not really covering anything but these doors, I guess. I could flatten that out to make sure it covers. Yeah, there we go. The largest of triangles. Give me your largest triangle, sir. All right, so I think we have to go bare minimum 60 feet. To cover as much area as possible. But the party shouldn't necessarily know that either. They shouldn't know like what all is not covered. But as the DM, I can say like, all right, maybe they cover 60 feet. I wish there was a mirror here. That would help. The only thing I feel bad is that these two tables on the right would not be covered by security cameras, and that feels like a huge design flaw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are there 5 security cameras? But there's more than that, because that's how many stations there are. I mean, there's 3 in the employee areas alone. They can see through the window, anything they can see through it. Yeah, so line of sight could literally just mean line of sight. It means if a person can see clearly and there's nothing blocking it, then they can just see it. So that's probably how. And like I said, they're not going to know the distance anyway. So we could just really play it by realistic ear and say like, well, what would line of sight look like for these? Like, so this, you could be up here to be out of this one's line of sight, but then this one would cover you. I think there's no cameras in the laundry room or the bathhouse. Thank goodness. So there's no cameras there. But yeah, I think you could establish that cameras would cover just about everything on the floor. So yeah, I think I might just disregard the whole distance thing and then there's a camera in the restaurant as well. I like and I've heard other people when they talk about running Stygian Gambit, they use this underground waterfall area as an exciting egress for the party, because trying to escape quickly via like a boat going upstream is not going to really work that well, versus being able to like rappel or somehow just escape, leap into the waterfall or something could be pretty awesome. I don't think, what is this, A11? There are rules for that. The waterfall is 100 feet tall and plunges into water that is 30 feet deep. Which in real life, you definitely don't want to jump off a cliff that's 100 feet tall into a 30 feet deep water. That would not feel great. I'm not going to Google it, but that might kill you, because I'm pretty sure landing on water from a certain speed of falling is not really any better. But in D&D, as we all know, gravity is not nearly as strong or painful in this universe. So you only take 10d6 falling damage. But you would also fall into water, which I believe lets you make some kind of a check as a reaction and reduce that damage. Or, like I said, you could come up with some kind of fun climbing maneuver or something. I think we do need to let the party give them the 2 days, I think. Is it under planning the heist? Because scouting the area is something they should almost always be able to do in these heists. They might not be able to do it every time, but that is usually an important part of the heist thing. So I guess I like giving them the time limit. Let's see, that's not useful. I'm trying to find starting the adventure. Yeah, 48 hours. So they have 2 days, which I guess I would say, or you could do it like the museum and just say, hey, you've got the day to check it out, and then the tournament is that evening. Just to kind of, I guess if you give them multiple days, so that might be the difference of difficulty scaling as well. Is when they're low level, you'd be like, all right, you'll need a long rest in between when you're scouting it than when you're there doing the heist. But for level 4, maybe I should be like, all right, you can go scout it during the day, but the tournament doesn't take place at night. And in which case, I think I agree with the adventure where it says that the Aranis statue isn't actually there until the evening of the tournament. But we could still have it all happen in one day. It just doesn't come out until the evening time, I guess. And then they can schmooze with, some of the people there if they want to. Like maybe some of the high rollers have shown up somewhat early. Also, I think it's a 24-hour casino. It doesn't necessarily say that, but I would assume it's like a 24-hour casino where it never really closes. So that'll add to the complexity of the situation a little bit here. We're going to talk about Quentin's deal, because that was something I was very interested in. Assume that's all the way down in A14 then. So we got the security mirrors, which is going to be a problem for the party. What it says is caught cheating. I don't know how people catch you cheating. Let's see. Games. Yeah, the games of chance I was mostly disappointed in. So those are the ones I'll try to find, because I think that would be the fun thing to do. If they go to a fucking casino, somebody's going to want to gamble. And I would love to turn this into, like I said, I love Maverick, one of my favorite Westerns. And that's kind of a gambling, casino heist themed situation. A little bit, where it's like his whole goal is to join this high stakes tournament and win it, basically. And then shenanigans happen along the way. And it's actually the casino is I think it's a ferry boat at the end. And that's like just the ending climax. But I like the idea of encouraging the party to be involved in this tournament, at least part of the party, and perhaps trying to just win the statuette legitimately. Or if not, they have their quest giver can be like, I've got, I'm going to be involved in this tournament, and perhaps you can help me win this tournament. In fact, maybe that would be unsanctioned by the Golden Vault. Because I'm still trying to figure out why the Golden Vault would even care. Maybe it's like an evil artifact that will spread Mammon's influence to whoever wins it. And for some reason, the Golden Vault knows that. And that's why they need... That's kind of copies a little bit of the Murkmire thing, though. It's like, we need to steal this thing because it's evil. And this one's not an egg, we promise. So is that too close to what I just did with Murkmire? Just painting the thing as a evil artifact, I guess. Although in this case, it's the owners are maliciously trying to give it away to somebody. Because, again, I guess the owner's a bad guy. Although, in mine, the owner wasn't necessarily a bad guy. She was just somebody who kind of was owed a debt to the Zentarum, and thus she put that into motion. Alright, so Quentin has a Mephistophelian aspect to his appearance. Slicked back, wavy hair, curls mustache. I really wish we had... I guess I'll have to come up with art for this character, because I love how this character sounds. With this, like, devilish-looking gnome. Used to be a professional gambler. He lost the final game out to a relative newcomer, a young tiefling named Verity. Never forgave Verity for what he felt was a stunning humiliation and vowed to take his revenge. Spent the next several years building up a false friendship with her. He played the long con. Traveling the gambling circuit, cultivating a mutual dream for owning and operating their own casino. But then he stole all their money, pooled together, vanished, and opened the Afterlife Casino. But to make his casino a reality, he sold his soul to Mammon, the archdevil of the third layer of the Nine of Hells, Minaros, and Memmon's subordinates put Quentin in touch with wizards who could help him build and decorate the casino. This is the part that I think is really interesting and somewhat underdeveloped, is this whole like actual hell thing, because it's like it's cute, like it's a whole kitschy like theme out here, but it actually hides the fact that it is a real hell casino. I think has some really interesting potential. And yeah, Quentin being like a classic villain would be really fun. What is this act? He's just a noble stat block. Again, we could use him as an actual like devil stat block, I think. I don't know if would he be turned into a devil yet? Or would he just be, maybe if the players take him out, he would like transform into a devil. Could be interesting also. Because the noble stat block as designed is not super interesting for a foe. You could also summon demons, I guess, which it says he summons spine devils. Again, that's for level 2. Quentin's location can be anywhere, which I should be able to have him go around and schmoozing with people. His office is A14. It does list several casino patrons I can play around with, which not only does it list a D6 table here, but there's also, I believe, a list of all the patrons who are part of the tournament, which I would definitely replace some of these with people the players know. At the very least, one of them should be one of the rivals. Probably just Arlo, because he's the most fun to roleplay. And have Arlo here, like, legitimately trying to win. Like, not necessarily there as part of Zentarum business. In fact, how is the rivals... Let's see. For the Stygian Gambit, the rival crew motivation is that Regor Falsane, a gambler who wasn't invited to participate in the Three Dragon Annie tournament, hires the rivals to steal the Aranis statue. So, I don't know if I want to necessarily use the whole rival crew again like I just did the museum, but at least include 1 or 2 characters, the fact that they're just here, just to help fuck up the party a little bit. And that they would probably know what the party's doing here. They would recognize them if they're not disguised. North end of the casino ends in an 80-foot rocky cliff face. I thought we just said it was 100 feet. The river that runs through the casino pours up the cliff at the overlook and empties a large body of water below. Which... maybe that just empties out into the Sea of Swords, like the cliff face somewhere. So maybe the actual entrance is at a different location underground. Was there a river? There's gotta be rivers that go through Waterdeep. All cities need rivers. All the areas are named after Minaros and Dees and Avernus, sorry. Tiefling bartenders, tiefling attendants, the spa, the baths, which there's nothing really to do in the spa or baths, other than it's a place to hide, I guess. There's no security cameras in there. Why is that door super tiny? It's funny how that happens sometimes when they're placing doors. Casino patrons come and go through 2 sets of doors in the east one. Oh, that's the circus. Yeah. Which the circus could be really cool. Surely we can use the actual like performer stat block. And maybe the druid wants to stage like the druid should be like really involved in like, because circuses, I would imagine, are famous for not treating animals very well. Stage some kind of daring rescue. Also provide a bit of a distraction. Maybe there's some more interesting animals we can involve here. In fact, I should probably, let's see. Let's go to the performers. Make one of the named patrons, one of the like circus leaders. Yeah, there's a whole performer stat block we could use. Oh, that might be more bard related now that I think about it. But it's still entertainer if you're a circus performer. Yeah, that'd be fine. They have uncanny dodge and short sword. They just have to be armed circus performers. Although I'm gonna have to change the artwork. They're not sitting there playing the fiddle. And they're all tieflings also. I think the high level ones are gonna be probably too much though. Maestro and the Legend is yeah, the Maestro is a CR6. Too much of a boss fight there, but just having some performers and maybe just one of them is like max hit points or something as the boss would be good enough. College of Dance Bards. Yeah, that would be pretty perfect. I don't want to make like entire PCs though. Maybe the statue has the devil's real name or some such, and they're trying to get it before it falls into the wrong hands. Could, but then why would the owner be willing to give that away? That's not a bad idea. I'm trying to figure out the motivation here. Because the owner presumably is hosting the tournament and has this statuette, which I assume would be worth money also, as a prize. So that's what I had, that idea of, like, it's a cursed object that actually corrupts anybody who wins it into maybe that's what happened to Quentin. Maybe he won this object and that's what kind of infected him with this devilish, I guess devil thing isn't a curse. It's a entity that like corrupts you. But maybe that's how it corrupts you. It slowly does it through this object. I'm sure I'm citing some horror movie or half a dozen horror movies. Until you eventually accept Mammon into your life. And then you too can open your own casino as long as you provide souls. Yeah, all the tournament people are listed here. High stakes tables with 50 gold buy-in. I really want to work it around where the party is encouraged at least somewhat to participate in this tournament, and I can come up with some fun like rules and stuff for it. Well, it's confusing when the characters right here, the tournament is in full swing. So I guess even during the initial reconnaissance, the tournament is like starting or is already going on. So the adventure doesn't include, I don't think, any way for the party to actually be included in the tournament, which again feels disappointing. They're just supposed to be like, just kind of walk up to the statuette and just grab it and run out, not really be involved. Although it does have a pretty nasty trap on it where it paralyzes you. If you try to, it's in a case and you damage the case, and it's a DC 17 whiz save or be paralyzed. Zoinks. Okay, I'll check it out, Anubis. Thank you. Are these like API things or just purely? Oh yeah, you did. Okay, you said that. Which I have done a little bit of that. I'm not very tech savvy, but I can get by. We'll say. That works. The next corrupt souls to go to the next city and do it. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Oh yeah, it could even work like a an iron. What's that called? The flask thing that literally contains the demon. Iron flask is what I'm thinking of. Or maybe it contains a servant of the demon. It wouldn't contain Mammon itself, obviously. Holding this, I mean, it's a legendary artifact. Take a magic action, target creature you can see within 60 feet. And you trap it Pokemon style. Nintendo will sue you. Let's not mention that. You can take a magic action, remove the flask stopper, and release the creature in the flask. The creature then obeys your commands for an hour, understanding those commands, even if it doesn't know the language. Although if I do this, I'm literally doing like the egg thing. I can't go like I did with the museum. Like, oh, this one also contains a creature. Great. But this is not one they want to... This one would not open it on its own. Or would it? It even mentioned some really nasty creatures as possibilities. Caneloth, Bone Devil, Cambion, and Aranis. You could just use that. The Aranis statue actually includes an Aranis. A lot of these are demons, now that I look at it. I think in Aranis, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly either, is pretty high up there in the CR rating. Aren't they supposed to be like half devil? No, I'm thinking of Cambion, maybe. Fallen angels, that's what they are. Dang. Serve archdevils and guard the order of the 9 hells against trespassers and escapees. Nice. I'm reading about all these. I'm reading about the arenas now. Once they're summoned, they won't leave without claiming the soul of either their quarry or the mortal who summoned them. Nasty pants. Yeah, CR 12. Yeah, that would not be a creature you necessarily want to use. So, and I would have to worry about the fact that I just did this with the museum, but at least in this case, I would give forewarning that like this object, or maybe it doesn't have to be a creature. It could just literally be a corrupting thing. Which there's probably like sentient magic items that are doing what I'm thinking of, which is how those are the ones that like curse and corrupt, like the Sword of Kos or something. In terms of whispering sweet nothings to you, and that's kind of turns you and basically corrupts you into doing bad things until and primes you for devilish contracts. I like they've got the Wonder Woman rope. Magic rope. What about the Chardalyn amulets and rhyme? The statue alters their state of mind and helps create a cult-like group, like the Seinfeld carpet cleaners. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Less of a creature situation and more of a an object of corruption, I think. So we could go with our same like, and I think that would just give proper motivation. But it's still like I like the idea of the 2-part heist. Is like they have to get rid because the idea is somebody from this tournament wins it, they take this statuette, and then it corrupts them, and because they've got a lot of money and they're a high-ranking, influential person, they then start up and create their own mass kind of front to Mammon, which is what this has become. So I am leaning towards having that be an idea, and I think that would give more credence to why the Golden Vault would be involved here. I don't know how much I should tell them about the fact that it's like real hell stuff going on, which again is something that I'm actually expanding on that the book doesn't go into necessarily. Yeah, barring character intervention, here's how it all goes down. Man, that's the other thing I want to expand is the tournament. Let's see, there's a restaurant, animal cages, Cirque Maladamini. Well, it's 3 baboons and a trained lion. I have a feeling my players are definitely going to jack with that, especially if I put up like banners and stuff talking about the circus. Probably have these doors open, I would imagine. If the circus isn't going on, the doors would open, and then once the performance is going on, maybe that would close. And then maybe even include a performer outside that's like enticing people in to come watch the circus. I think could be pretty entertaining. I definitely want my players to get involved in that. There's a Minotaur skeleton guarding A19, which they can find the control rod for this creature for some reason in Quentin's office. I don't know if I want to use any of that or come up with a more fiendish appropriate creature. Although Minotaur skeleton is pretty solid. All right, Quentin's office. Yeah, here it talks about, as an action, he can utter a prayer to Mammon, which causes 2 spined devils to emerge. Which again, this is level 2, so spined devils are kind of the lower devil types. Oh, there are 2 of them. CR2 is not bad, actually. So bare minimum, I could just increase the number of devils also. There's also Quasits if I want to go lower level. Or there's Hellhounds. That'd be cool if he had maybe 1 or 2 Hellhounds at his side. They look like dogs, but they're like, creepy and breathe fire. I think they can talk too. Oh, no, it can't. Understands Infernal, but can't speak. I was picturing the actually I think it was from a comic book now I think about it. It was a Loki comic book when Loki was a teenager because he goes through all these different phases. He's like a woman at one point, and then he gets like reincarnated. He gets reincarnated as a woman for years, and then at some point he gets turned into a teenager. He's involved with like different teen adventure groups, and at some point he's got this really awesome like devil dog, and the dog is like super hilariously like violent and evil, but still hangs out with him. Always love that. What was this stat block that I saved? Barbed Devil. Okay. Especially because it's an Infernal Collector. Yeah, fanatical, protect troves of treasure. That sounds amazing. So maybe he can transform into a Barbed Devil if they take him out or if he really needs assistance. Or maybe the Barbed Devil's guarding the vault, or maybe the Hellhounds are guarding the vault. I don't know, but I want to use more of these fiends. Like, we don't use enough fiends in my campaigns. I'm gonna play with any of the... Out of 10 years of D&D, we've barely touched any of these devil-type stat blocks. Yeah, Quasits are very good. I mean, they can just shapeshift into creatures and people. Yeah, bat, centipede, or toad. And go invisible at will. Like, it's literally the best spy ever. Quentin personally hires all casino staff and knows all their names. He is not fooled by characters pretending to be employees he doesn't know. That's pretty badass, actually. So somebody walks in and tries to bluster with their disguises and he just like shuts that shit down immediately. That could be very cool. So I got to be careful about using him when people are disguised and make sure I use him at the right time when I want to blow their disguise. Characters come clean to Quentin. He is amused to hear that Verdi hired them to rob his casino. He refuses to give the characters what they came for, instead offering to pay them 150 gold each to forego the heist, which is interesting because I think the reward for her completing the quest is 100 gold per person. But obviously you'd be going against all the Golden Vault stuff. He gives them each a handful of casino chips equivalent to 15 gold. It's funny. Here's some store credit. Desk drawers. Don't have a whole lot of treasure. 9 gold laid gold rings, 100 GP each. Damn. He keeps an employee pass guard in his waistcoat, and he's got the control rod for a Minotaur skeleton if I wanted to use that. Three security guards monitor the mirrors. I forgot to update those guys to the Tiefling Toughs. Let's do that right now. So in total, there's actually, I think, fewer guards than there were at the museum, oddly enough. I like that my macro automatically rolls for hit points when I paste them. Because there's 5 on the floor. 1, 2, 3. I'm using the tough boss art because it looks like a tiefling, but I'm using the tough stat block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the floor. And then there's 1 in the tournament room. So that's 6. And then there's 3 in the security office. That's 9. I think that's technically fewer than there were at the museum, even though this is even a bigger area, although it's more wide open. But these are much stronger. These are toughs, which is basically a thug stat block, versus the guard stat block. And I definitely want to have Quentin be able to summon some devil helpers whenever he needs to. I need to update all the employees also, make sure they're using generic tiefling looking token art. 13 is just the break room, I think. Yep. Wait, why is the Minotaur skeleton mentioned? Oh, characters who question the tieflings can learn the following information. Okay. So they can learn about the Minotaur skeleton thing. If I want to keep that, I'm not certain I do. I could keep the idea of the control rod, or something that can control a creature, a mindless creature, maybe. A Minotaur skeleton's probably fine, but I think a devil might use something more interesting. I believe there's also still a trap in this hallway of A18. Holding cells you can try to break out of. Be mildly interesting if we put people in here. Or that's where people go once... Oh, there's got to be something. Yeah, if I want to keep that hell theme, but I don't know if there's not really room to put like a portal to hell or anything that people get transformed. Or I guess I could transform them into, what is it called, leches or wretches or something. Looking like Ursula's cave with all the fucking sea people that like couldn't pay their contracts and they get shriveled up into these fucked up looking seaweed creatures. I could have that be in the holding cells. That would probably be too much though, because the holding cells are just to put people who are like cheaters and whatnot. Don't necessarily need anything too dark and crazy. So maybe the vault would actually be the place to put shit that they really want to hide away if I want to go with the hell theme. The back hallways. I guess there's not a trap in here. Huh. Well, that seems like a missed opportunity. It just says characters might encounter one or more employees while heading to or from the casino floor. Each hallway has a security mirror. I guess all these hallways are 18, I see. So that's the security, is there's a mirror right there. Oh, okay. Oh, you do have to make it through the security office now that I look at it in order to get up to the vault. But still, at least the door should be... Okay, there it is. The door does have a trap on it. Cast iron devil faces mounted on its south side. So the actual door into the vault at 819 is the... Looks like the fire breath trap. 10 foot wide, 30 foot long of fire down the hallway. Each creature must make a DC 14 dex save, taking 3d6 fire damage on a failed save. Pretty weak trap, but it's just part of a big area, so I might not actually change that too much. I love the Minotaur skeleton as a name. That's hilarious. Virgil. You can command him, detect magic, transmutation around each chest, where they can magically put coins in or out. At any given time, the chests contain mixed coinage with a total of 2d4 times 1000 GP. How many chests are there? 7. 7 chests. Each chest contains between 2d4. So that's between 2,000 and 8,000 gold pieces. That is a potential lot of money. That is a potential lot of money. What are the odds the party only takes what they need to take? They're robbing this casino. It is interesting that it talks about how it's got the transmutation magic, because one of the things they might be like, well, let's try to steal the money as it's coming or going. But the book does think of that and say that doesn't have to do that. Instead, they're just magically linked to the cashier stations. And inscribed rooms enables the cashiers to remotely deposit coins into and withdraw coins from the chests. The chest must be closed. For magic to function, the chests become non-magical if removed from the vault. Now, presumably that means you could steal money from the vaults from the tills, from the cashiers, right? The cashier station. So you could just sit there. I mean, it would take you a while to steal 5,000 gold coins. I don't know how many to be able to pull out at a time. But that's interesting that I wouldn't necessarily give up that information to the party. And within the vault, they can also find a golden ruby necklace, a jade rabbit figurine, and a +1 rapier. So yeah, the two biggest things that I need to work on and expand is the tournament. Well, I guess 3 things. I want to make the casino games interesting enough to interact with actual like real gambling stakes and stuff. I want to make this tournament more of a highlight feature, and maybe one of the party members wants to even, join in and have rules for that if I can, and also include at least 1 or 2 of these NPCs should be like recognizable. And I don't know if I can use any of my past PC players. That'd probably be a little too much, but maybe if there's a past NPC I could use that would be here, would be like a high rolling gambler. That would be kind of fun and a chance for the party to do some fun role playing. in this area with because they would be motivated. I guess if I take out, if I use what I've been leaning towards, which is to have the statuette be this like evil corrupting thing, and that's what the Golden Vault wants the party to do, and take it, that kind of takes away the whole like, oh, we need to steal this from Quentin specifically and not just steal it from the winner. Because then they'd be like, okay, well, our goal is to just let these guys play it out. Somebody wins it, they receive it, and then as they're leaving, we'll steal it from them. Like, that would be the easiest thing to do. And as a DM would be like, oh, crap. Whereas if I keep it as this, like, specific fuck you to Quentin, then that's the motivation for taking it from him while it's still in the case and hasn't been rewarded to anybody yet, or have somebody win it legitimately. So that's kind of a complication I've created for myself. And then the third thing I want to expand is the biggest one, which is how much of this real hell theme do I want to employ versus just the barest amount of tease that's being used here. Like, the only thing that really has to do with real hell stuff, that one little bit where he says he, you know, worked with Mammon. I say worked with, that's doing a lot of heavy lifting. It doesn't even mention it. Okay, there it is. It's in the beginning under Quentin Toggle Pocket. To make his casino reality, he sold his soul to Mammon. And then that helped him rebuild the casino. But like, that's it. Like, that's such a big sentence. He sold his soul to Mammon, the Archdevil of Mineros. Like, you would think that would matter more, I guess, in the context of this adventure versus him just being this kind of asshole villain. And the only thing that really matters is that he can summon 2 spine devils by praying to Mammon. So I want to expand on that and make that more interesting. I think that would also scale up the adventure quite a bit and make it more challenging. I'm just trying to figure out how exactly to translate that into this adventure. And then if I want to make that part of the main quest that the Golden Vault knows and gives the party, and be like, hey, there's this hell-themed casino that really does hide some hellish activity behind the scenes that we need you to put a stop to. Does that really become a heist? Because I still like the idea of motivating them to steal money from the vault, I guess. So I might be trying to, I might be overly complicating things by introducing this, I guess, is the fact like, okay, well, why wouldn't they just try to take out Quentin, I guess, versus trying to take out, like, is there something in the vault that would help stop all this? Maybe the vault has a giant statue to Mammon that's actually helping power some evil part of this adventure, but then while they're in the vault, they can obviously steal whatever vault shit they want. So maybe there, and then I still like the idea of having the statuette mean something as well. So these are all the things I'm trying to work through, and I kind of need to figure out before our first session of the Stygian Gambit so that I can make sure to know what all to tell them from the beginning, which may be as early as tomorrow. If we finish Troll Skull Manor, I may be able to even do the introduction for Stygian Gambit tomorrow. I won't necessarily count on it, but I need to plan for that just in case. In any case, we'll have at least another, a couple of craftings where we can still talk more about Stygian Gambit and whatnot. But those are the kind of things I'm talking about and the kind of feedback I'm looking for all of you and kind of what your thoughts are for this. Let me know in the comments or on our Discord server. But that is going to do it for now for this edition of Crafting the Golden Vault. As always, if you enjoy the content, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocider, Roleplayer, Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy Spuds, Warden, Email, LC, Tom the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Sasha, John, Morbid Reaper, Jealous Guy, Zim, Jesse, Dante, and Sarah, and Gold patrons RPG, Paper Crimes, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, The Lizard Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rufus, Drakeland, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you Friday for more Dungeons and Dragons. Keys in the Golden Vault. Ooh, I do like that. Buying back a buddy's soul. That's a good one. Maybe the soul was turned into a statue. Alright, we gotta discuss this some more. Later.